Hi everyone, my name is Banapi Ravikumar and I'm going to be pitching to you my app, EasyTravel. It is a mobile app that is an application that I created to improve a lot of the travel apps that I found out there. Something that I noticed is that a lot of travel applications, whether they are mobile applications or websites, are unnecessarily complicated and make it really difficult for the user to actually plan a trip. Because of this, they end up getting travel agents or someone who actually knows the process of booking a trip from the beginning to the end, and that costs them extra money that they might not necessarily need to spend. Um, and a lot of people travel. It's something that a lot of people love to do, but they find that the process of actually booking a trip, whether that is to visit family, to go on a trip for fun, or to go on a business trip for work, is just really difficult and they do not look forward to the process. So I wanted to create an application that would make the process of booking a trip really easy and straightforward. The thing that makes my application really different from a lot of other travel applications that might be out there is that I present all the information that the user is going to need to know in just one single page, but it's presented in a very simple way that makes it easy for the user to understand, and it caters to the user's interests as well. My design is really aesthetic as well as simple. It presents the information very clearly, like I mentioned before, and people of all ages can use it, so it doesn't really matter what age you are. It's meant to be used for everyone because of its simplicity. Um, Traveling is something that is meant to be fun and is meant to be able to bring out kind of like the child in you, and that's kind of what I wanted to portray through my application. So when I take you guys through my prototype, you're going to see that it is very fun and very colorful because it brings out that kid in people just like traveling should. So when I was first designing my project, I conducted the heuristic evaluations of the original website that I wanted to improve. The original website that I wanted to improve was called Kontiki, which is basically a website that books tour groups for people. And while the whole idea of it is really good, I realized that it was just really complicated. I'm going to show you guys the actual website right now, but you can see that as soon as you open it, you are just presented with a whole bunch of information that just makes it really, really overwhelming for the user. Right here, because the background is blue but the font is white, it kind of makes it difficult to read. There are a lot of buttons on the side. There's no way to kind of take a survey or anything like that. If you keep scrolling, you can see that there's just a lot of information that is presented, and it's hard to kind of narrow down what you actually want to do. So going back to the actual page for an example, I'm just going to scroll to one really quick to show you guys an example of how it does not have good heuristics, but recognition rather than recall. All these buttons that you see on the side are really hard to kind of understand what they are. And so recognition rather than recall shows that, the website should just minimize how much the user has to memorize by utilizing a lot of objects and actions. But these objects and actions are just really hard to understand, even for me, and I use websites a lot. And so going back to the GitHub page with all my information on it, when I conducted usability testing, I had my friend actually go through and use this website, and I had her perform 3 tasks, which were to find a pre-planned trip to Africa, to learn more about Kontiki, the website's mission, and to get involved in group bookings, and she was not able to complete any of these tasks and was really just frustrated with the website because of how complicated it was. Then I went ahead and did my user research and had my roommate, who was actually an avid traveler. She books trips a lot through various websites, try and use this one. And even though she knew the travel world really well, this was something that was extremely difficult for her to do. She found that there was just so much information and she wasn't sure what to do. She also didn't like that a lot of the trips were pre-planned. However, she couldn't go back and change certain information. And so that was something that I realized I should go back and fix. So then when it came to actually having to do my UX storytelling by creating personas and scenarios, I decided to come up with 3 personas of people who are going to vary but also use the application. So one of my personas was a guy named Bryce who had just graduated college and he wanted to travel for a bit before he started working again or went on to graduate school. And each of the personas that I made just kind of outlined their bios, their goals, their needs, their frustrations, etc. My second persona was a grandma who wanted to be able to visit her grandchildren whenever she could without having to rely on her own children to book the trips for her. And the last persona was a businesswoman who needed to be able to go on trips really quickly. And their journey maps are also outlined as well. Then I created a really quick wireframe and graphic design element to just kind of understand how to put colors together and how to create wire flows and wireframes as well. I'm going to show you guys my low fidelity prototype, which was my original kind of idea that I had for the application. In these pictures here, you can see my dad kind of going through the application or going through the low fidelity prototype, and trying to understand what exactly it's asking for. And he had a lot of questions and a lot of concerns with it, which made me realize that there was a lot of stuff that I needed to fix. I'm going to show you guys my actual low fidelity prototype right here. And as you can see, even though there are a lot of things that are outlined and it seems like a pretty good draft for a prototype, it actually does not cover a lot of things. It's really confusing because it takes you through a lot of steps at once instead of actually outlining each and every page that I'm going to need to do. And so while it's a good start, there are a lot of things that I can change. For example, the itinerary here is just really complicated. The interests that it's asking here are just really overwhelming. And it's not really clear that it is a survey, which is something that I'm going to have to fix in the high fidelity prototype. So going back to the application, going to my high fidelity prototype, right here you can see all the wire flows that I implemented. And I'm going to show you guys the actual high fidelity prototype right here. And so pretty much from the get-go, I knew that I wanted this application to be eye-catching, and I wanted it to be something that users would actually enjoy using. And so from the beginning, you can see that the colors are they flow well together, and that they kind of outline how users can sign in, what to do if they forget their password. If they don't have an account, they can go ahead and create one by putting in their name, their email, their password, and then creating the account. From there, they can go ahead and plan an upcoming trip. Here they can scroll to kind of see like a whole bunch of popular places. They can scroll for flights or for hotels, for cars, buses. They can even take a survey that's going to take them through and kind of pre-plan a trip for them. Right here you can see that I included a progressive bar, and then in the end it's going to give them an entire trip that outlines all the details that they're going to need to know. Then they can go back to the home and just go ahead and continue planning the trip. But let's say they wanted to go to California. They can go ahead and do that and kind of explore popular destinations, or they can just search. And as you can see, the buttons are kind of the same from one page to another, which allows for very little memorization to be happening. They kind of just know what's going to happen on the next page because it's similar for each of them. If they wanted to go to San Francisco and they wanted to explore what to do, they could go ahead and do that by kind of scrolling through a lot of the options. Again, there's a back button that they can explore with. But let's say they wanted to explore the California Academy of Sciences and look at the current exhibits and events. As you can see, that's a possibility. It outlines it very clearly for them. If they wanted to look at this exhibit in particular, it kind of outlines the information in a very simple way and provides the ratings for it. And they can go ahead and go back, or they can go back to this Discover page that they wanted. So as you can see, this application is really simple. It makes it very straightforward and very easy for the user to kind of understand what's going on because everything is outlined so clearly. In addition, there's just a lot of options for them to kind of choose from. A lot of stuff has been thought out. That being said, there still is a lot that I need to do. There are a lot of dead ends. However, it is a really good start, and I think that this application is a great way for users to kind of be able to plan a trip and have a fun time with it and be able to see that it is an easy and simple process. And so from having to do the heuristics and have to do the usability testing and research in low fidelity and high fidelity prototypes, I learned what it takes to actually do a good UX design. More specifically, when it comes to having to do a travel application, I learned that you have to think of everything when it comes to hotels and food, what to do, the flights, and everything has to be thought of. So there's a lot of information that goes into it. However, it is important that the user has all that information because that is what they're going to need. So overall, I learned a lot from having to do all of these things and I now know would make good UX design. And more specifically, I learned what it takes to make a good travel application.